I'm not the smartest person in the industry by far. Magic little like thing we press.
Chaotic or manipulative?
You could manipulate the algorithm. You'll be ranking in Google search within no time.
Fancy AI generated content?
I just have a blog that I put stuff on.
This is Adsy Talks. Adsy Talks. Adsy Talks.
Welcome to Adsy Talks, talks with people who are shaping the future of SEO search. Today, we're joined with Barry Schwartz, the founder of Search Engine Roundtable, longtime editor of Search Engine Land, and CEO of RustyBrick. Barry, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to be transparent. I'm not a deep technical SEO. I'm working with customers. I'm a customer care department lead. And for many years, your reporting has been how I personally made sense of what was happening in search. And let's start this simply. When people talk about modern SEO in 2026, what do you think they overestimate and what do they usually miss?
So I guess new people, when they start hearing about SEO, the biggest misconception is that there's some type of like magic little like thing we press as SEOs to like automatically just rank your website #1 for any keyword. And it doesn't work like that. It's like starting any business. Generally, when you make a business, you need to start building up your reputation so they can get customers, and the more customers you get, and the better you treat your customers, and the better name you make for yourself across your space, your local space, or even international space, the more people will trust you and the more people will hire you and visit your stores and so forth. So generally when it comes to SEO, there's like no little magic bullet that you press anymore to like just do really well in Google search or any search. It requires a lot of dedication, a lot of time, a lot of building your reputation online and offline in order to go ahead and to perform well in Google search and other search engines.
Well, that does make sense. And when we look back at the early days of SEO, people often describe it as a chaotic or manipulative. What do you think we misunderstood about that period today?
So back in the older days, like I'm talking like probably 20 plus years ago, the algorithms were much simpler. It was a simpler web. There weren't as many web pages out there, wasn't as much content out there. It wasn't as people weren't competing as much. And you could manipulate the algorithm to rank things. So back in the old days, even before Google launched, you had, search engines that were mostly text-based, and SEOs back then would basically look at keyword ratio. Like how often are you putting the keywords on the page that you want to rank for? So then SEOs would basically stick the keyword 1,000 times on the page, because the more times you had it on the page, the better this page will rank. That obviously doesn't work now. That's called keyword stuffing. And now it might even hurt you. It doesn't read well for users. It's not a good user experience. And then Google came on board and like, oh, you can't spam us. I remember Sergey Brin, they were basically on stage at a conference saying, you can't spam us because we use links. And then what SEOs did was they manipulated links. They went ahead and bought links, traded links, did link schemes and so forth to get links to their website, and even quality websites. So the whole thing was around quality links and so forth. So SEOs were able to like spam that. So technically, it was much easier to go ahead and manipulate Google back then, either by manipulating your content or your links. But now in these days, it's much, much harder to do those types of tactics. You have to really build a really great website that naturally gets links that people want to read and consume and so forth. And even then, with all the AI stuff playing into the Google search results, it's hard to get traffic from Google for many, many types of keywords. So it's a whole different space right now.
Yeah, so basically humans don't change, it's the tools that get fancier. And we just need to adjust and accept the rules of the game that are now. Also, after watching the industry for 2 decades, what mistakes are easiest for you to spot on that people usually miss?
What mistakes do people make in SEO, you're asking?
Yeah. So it's like the most common basics that are repetitive, and you see that year after year people still make them.
I mean, there's so many. The most drastic one is to block search engines from crawling your website. So blocking it with a robots.txt file by accident. Maybe your CMS, your content management system, set to not allow search traffic. Maybe you have a very aggressive like firewall or cloud service that blocks it. So the main thing is like if Google can't even see your content, access your website, then that's a big issue because Google can't understand what's there and can't rank it. So that's probably the biggest thing that you see, the most devastating thing you see out there. But then it's just making sure that you have a website with great content on it. A lot of people just overestimate stuff and think that they have the best content because they wrote it. But the truth is, if you look on the web and see what competitors have, it might be better. There's like, I can't go through all the list, but there's, I mean, the most drastic one is the blocking search engines from accessing your website.
Yeah, I do agree with that because working at Adsy with customers, I notice a lot of people struggling with similar problems, and also like this can be avoided, and this is like everything is out there, and people still like for some reasons they're still missing it. And from your perspective, what's the most common misconception business owners still have about SEO while starting doing it?
I think that's similar to the initial like introduction is that they think it's just like some meta tag you add to your webpage and automatically you rank very well. That you hire an SEO company and then since you pay that SEO company, I don't know, X dollars, you'll be ranking in Google search within no time. That might work with Google Ads where you're paying for traffic and you get immediate results. But when it comes to organics, organic search and SEO, it takes a long time to build your reputation. So I think the biggest misunderstanding from people who are hiring SEO companies, hiring agencies or whatever, is that you'll see immediate results from hiring an SEO to do whatever you want. It takes time, effort, and sometimes you'll never even get there, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true. And also, many clients also ask if this new fancy AI generated content is enough to rank. And from what you've seen, where do people misunderstand the role of quality versus quick hacks?
User generated content is something that used to rank really well back in the old days. They stopped ranking very well in the medium days, I guess you want to call it that. And then back with Reddit now, Google's been treating Reddit with user-generated content extremely well. And that will probably go away as well because we're going to have AI that pretty much ranks for everything. But again, user-generated content it's hard to say. There's different types of user-generated content. So Google is able to understand what the primary content on the page is. Let's say it's a blog post. You have your blog post at the top, and then you might have a comments area below it where people could comment on your blog post. That's user-generated. That stuff could help or hurt your content, but generally Google's very good at understanding what is the primary source of content and what's the secondary source of content. If your whole website is like a forum like Reddit or any just online forum out there, then it's all user-generated content. And then it's really about, getting traffic and getting people to come to that website and participate in it. You're not going to go ahead and fix typos on user-generated content generally. You're not going to go ahead and fix the grammar issues on user-generated content and so forth. So you want to make sure the community is professional enough to, really write well and to actually provide useful information. Reddit generally does a good job with that by having really good moderators in place and so forth, but not always. There's different subreddits that aren't great. So I think, over time, user-generated content may or may not perform well depending on what Google's interested in ranking based on the algorithm. So I wouldn't just say user-generated content works well. It depends on the type, the source, who the community is, and then if Google's in the mood of actually ranking that stuff well.
So basically, it's always efficiency versus quality and strategy. And I want to also reflect a bit about your profession, about the role of SEO journalism. And you personally, as far as I understand, you don't just follow SEO changes, you document how industry reacts. And how do you personally think about that responsibility of yours?
I don't know if it was a responsibility. It's something that I enjoy doing. I love the SEO community, loved it for over 20 years. And I basically thought when I first created the site, wouldn't it be great to, since I'm so involved in the SEO communities, like the discussion forums, now it's obviously a lot of X and social media and other discussion forums. Since I'm there anyway, wouldn't it be great to summarize some of the best stuff that I'm finding across the SEO community in these forums on social media? And that's what I've always done. I pull stuff out for my own benefit to document it on an online journal, like used to be a blog back then, where I document all this stuff, and anybody who wants to read it could actually read it as well. So it's just a way for me to keep track of what the community is talking about, highlight some of those discussions so other people could see it as well, and hopefully encourage the community to continue discussing these topics, because we have a very sharing and giving community. And I think to promote that is really, really useful. So it's really not really a responsibility, but more of something that I just have a passion for and I enjoy.
And speaking about this, do you feel more pressure today than, let's say, 10 years ago while doing this?
Pressure? No. Don't feel pressure. No.
Mm.
No more. I don't think I feel less or more pressure.
No, I mean, like being an influential person puts you in a perspective when you constantly interact with people and they expect something from you. So this is what I was talking about.
No, I don't think so. I don't feel that pressure of what people expect from me. I am very consistent. Like, I like to write at certain times, post at certain times, share stuff at certain times. Generally pretty consistent when it comes to that. But I don't think it's like a pressure per se. I don't even think it's like, I mean, people in the community think it's a big community. It's a small community. I don't think like I'm a big shot or anything like that. All I do is pretty much document what people are saying. I'm not saying anything groundbreaking. I'm not the smartest person in the industry by far. I just have a blog that I put stuff on and people read it. So, I don't think, I'm not like, I don't know, like a big shot at some, I'm not like Google CEO or the president of certain countries or stuff like that. I'm just an average guy that types fast and posts stuff on blogs. So
I see. And speaking about Google and community, in your episode of Myth-Busting SEO, you've been talking about the Google's communication with community, and you've watched how Google communicate with SEO community for a long time. Has that communication became clearer over time, or more controlled?
yes, and both. It changes. So early days when I first started covering this stuff, there was nobody communicating at all from Google. Then somebody named Google Guy started coming on to the forum, specifically Webmaster World, and started to comment and respond to people as an official rep without his personal name. Turned out that was Matt Cutts, who then started to go to conferences and communicate there and so forth. So Matt Cutts was great at communicating. It was one person primarily. Then he hired somebody who we called Mini Matt, Adam Lansnick, who I think is still, I'm not sure if he's still at Google, but he didn't work out. And then they all hired a whole Google team. I think it was a Google Webmaster Tools team, then Google Search Central and so forth, which was, I think, initially created by Vanessa Fox, who's no longer at Google now, but people as like John Mueller, Gary Ish, Martin Splitt, and so forth. And that whole team is out there trying to help SEOs and webmasters create what Google wants when it comes to Google search. They communicate on more technical topics, but they don't really document as much as like the Google update stuff that we've discussed. At one point, Google wasn't, we had these, we used to call like phantom updates or unconfirmed updates. I used to cover them all the time, and Google wouldn't really respond to those types of things. Google used to announce like the Panda updates and the Penguin updates, tell us about the Florida, not really Florida, but like other updates, like different infrastructure updates. And then they stopped when Matt Cutts kind of stepped down. And then they brought it back when Danny Sullivan joined Google, and they started to call these phantom updates, which we call our core updates. They came out with reviews updates. They came out with spam updates, and they still document some of those on the Google updates page. Even though Danny Sullivan is no longer the Google search liaison, he's pretty quiet now. I think now John's team in Zurich does that. But the communication has gone from a lot to a little to nothing to a lot again and to a little. It's always fluctuating depending on what their mood is and who's doing what and who's in charge. So I wouldn't say it's the all-time best. I don't know if, I mean, it was a lot of communication when Danny Sullivan was around. That kind of died down a lot since then, but they still are communicating. So it's not like completely shut off. They still communicate a lot, but not, I don't know. It's like, it's a lose-lose. I always say it's a lose-lose situation for them. The more they communicate, the more we question things, the more, content, more information we need from them. And the more we feel like they're kind of lying to us. So it's like a lose-lose situation for them to communicate. So yeah, I mean, we like it, of course, but it's just, they can't win when they communicate, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's true. And also, of course, there is a fine line between what Google actually implements and what they actually say. And how do you think people should read Google updates today?
I mean, for Google Updates specifically, it's like, all right, it's good to know that Google confirmed that an update started rolling out on this date and took them out and finished rolling out on around this date. So this way, if you see your rankings drop or go up or change in any which way, you know that it's related to, potentially you know that's related to that update. When Google doesn't communicate that, I try to document the unconfirmed updates on the Search Engine Roundtable, where people were like, I'm seeing a lot of changes to my rankings. What's going on? And other people go like, yeah, I see it too, but Google didn't announce anything. So at least the community itself is talking amongst itself, saying we see the same thing. That helps as well. But I mean, the Google has this whole search document that goes through how to analyze different trends when it comes to your website. Sometimes, you might see a lot of traffic because it's seasonal. Sometimes you made a technical change to your website and you block Google from crawling your website, and that could be devastating, and you could fix that easily. And sometimes Google makes a change on their algorithms, and something that could take months to years for you to actually address based on the content on your website and so forth. So it all depends on when you were hit, or what type of changes you see, what the season is, and so forth. So a lot of different factors come into play, and sometimes you just need third-party help to help you analyze that in an unbiased way. So hiring an SEO company might help with that, or you might be able just to read up about it yourself and learn from the Google SEO documentation and the online community, the great SEO community, on how to actually fix your website.
I see. And I also wanted to talk about the elephant in the room, something that's been hyped for several years now. That's a lot of noise around AI and search, and stripping away all this hype. What feels genuinely new, and what feels like an old SEO problems just in new packaging?
Okay, so AI has been in the search interface for a while, but it's now really baked in everywhere. So in the earlier days, AI was used for a lot of things, like even indexing, like how fast should we index the site? How often do they update their content? Those types of things. But also it was used for features like feature snippets. People also ask, those types of things used some form of AI or machine learning. Query understanding, so how Google understands your query, what information Google returns based off of that, how Google understands the paid content on your page. A lot of that stuff was used using AI or machine learning back in the day. But now what we see is the search features. A lot of the new search features are changed. So Google announced at Google I/O a couple of years ago a company called SGE, Search Generative Experience, which is now renamed to obviously AI Overviews. And AI Overviews are shown for a lot of queries on a lot of Google search results, where basically you have this box at the top that kind of replaces the feature snippet and gives you an AI generated response, which generates a lot fewer clicks to your website, and it's at the top of the results. And it really has caused, just a report today from Ahrefs, that I think clicks that have AI overviews to your website have dropped 58%. So if the AI overviews were on the page, you get 58% more clicks than you would otherwise. So it's really resulting in a lot of websites that used to get a lot of traffic from Google search not getting that traffic, and it's a huge drop for a lot of people. And now what Google's doing, just recently they announced that on mobile, when you do a search and you get an AI overview and you click on for more information, you click the show more button, it overlays more information without really citations, without links. And then you can actually follow up questions to take you right into Google's new AI mode. And AI mode is kind of like the future of Google search, which is basically a really detailed AI response from Google. Again, Google says we have links and cards and so forth, driving traffic to publishers downstream, but it shows, and most publishers say it drives a lot less traffic than Google search did initially. Google won't share that data. They never share what the click-through rates are. They could in Google Search Console, they just don't. But Google has been saying over and over again that they send more traffic than ever to publishers, and that traffic is better quality. But again, they haven't proved that by showing us the data in Google Search Console.
I remember this topic in your roundtable, and how you mentioned that, yes, Google is placing this AI search on the first place, but often the results are very questionable. And how you shown the example of you can ask some recipe, and this recipe can turn out to be like wrong completely. Yeah, and Google just puts that out there without like any source where it was generated from and stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, historically, AI could, as you know, hallucinate, make things up. And it makes things up in a very confident way. It's like talking to a friend that thinks they know everything and they really don't, but they give you answers anyway, and they tell you what they think is the real answer without saying whatever. At least Google now has a disclaimer on most of these responses saying, validate these things because it could be made up. But yeah, Google, the recipe example is like if you ask for a recipe from a specific brand, like or ask for a recipe or whatever, Google might say, oh, this recipe is from this publisher. And then it will go ahead and summarize the recipe, but it's actually pulling the recipe from multiple publishers, mixing the recipe steps together and creating a recipe that's not from that publisher. So the results might come back, if you start to bake it, it might come out really bad and poor and make that recipe blogger look bad. So again, Google's AI is really good at giving you an answer. Generally, AI will always give you an answer. It won't say, we won't give you an answer. And because of that, it has to act and give you some type of response, even if that response is not 100% accurate. So again, it's like talking to a friend that always thinks they know the right answer. But again, you have to validate that stuff. And a lot of people don't. This world is very, very scary because most people don't even validate what they hear and they just trust what Google gives them.
Yeah, that's true. And also, speaking about this environment, what role should SEO journalism play?
SEO journalism, I mean, the journalism in general is going, I mean, people are using AI for journalism and so forth. But there are a lot of websites that say, we are a publisher that values accuracy and honesty and so forth. And you could trust us when you read our stuff because we do the analysis and we have our fact checks and we do this and that. So I think any journalist has to make sure whatever they publish is legit and real. Humans can make mistakes and humans can go back and fix those mistakes. I've made mistakes and I fix those mistakes when I cover stuff. But like anything, it's just you have to provide the most amount of facts and truth when you cover stuff so that whoever's reading your stuff could actually understand what that is. So yeah.
I see. So as it is, journalism just bridges hype and reality and to make sense. Also, Barry, I want to try something new. I have prepared a list of things, and I want you to tell me, like, quickly with a short explanation, if you think they are overrated, underrated, or misunderstood. And also, like, including from different perspectives. So first one is core updates.
I don't think they're any of that. I think they are understood. I mean, I don't think they're underrated. I don't think they're overrated. I think they're a big deal. So I'm not sure if any of those apply to that. Does that make sense? Or am I misunderstanding what you want me to do?
No, it's fine. Like this blitz is created just for this quick reflection on these things. So yeah, we can just understand if it is working later on. The second one is Google spokesperson tweets.
Oh, those are mostly misunderstood, and probably sometimes overrated. Yeah.
I see. That's true. And what about EEAT?
On some level misunderstood because people think it's an algorithm. I also think it's somewhat overrated.
I see. Of course, it's this magic ranking factor. It always plays its role. And what about AI generated content?
Definitely misunderstood and definitely overrated.
Yeah, that's true. And the last one is SEO tools.
That's a hard one. I really use many SEO tools, so it's hard to say. I think obviously the problem with SEO tools and giving them their scores, and it's not a simple answer, is that it could be misunderstood if you don't understand what the scores mean. And a lot of people just take the scores and don't really understand what those mean and what they think things are. So it could be overrated or underrated depending on the person looking at that data.
Yeah, of course. They can be underrated because of the insights and measurement that are always overlooked, and overrated when people think that they will solve their problems that they have. Also, after everything you've seen, what are you personally most curious about heading into the next few years in terms of SEO world?
So it's a very interesting space right now with AI and stuff. My big question is Google going to crack down on AI slop more? Crack down, like they just supposedly went after listicles, according to Lily Ray. SEOs are generally looking for the quick fix. And sometimes things work and then they die off. So I don't know. I think SEO in general is becoming more of a marketing oriented area. There's obviously a lot of technical stuff to it, but I think it's going to just continue to expand beyond SEO and more overall marketing, general topics, including technical stuff. So I think it's just going to become more professional, I think, over time.
Well, that's a very interesting perspective, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, so Barry, thank you very much. I must admit it was like very constructive, precise, without long talks, straight to the point. And yeah, this was one of like the fastest talks I ever had in terms of podcasts. And I liked this conversation a lot. Thank you very much. And for everyone listening, I just want you to ask to follow Barry's work on Search Engine Roundtable and Search Engine Land. And I want our listeners to comment what was your entry point in SEO. Share it in the comments and subscribe to Adsy Podcast. Barry, thank you so much. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
This is Adsy Talks.